The African History. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, writer, and historian. So it is Sunday, January 8th, 2023. Happy New Year to everybody. Everybody. And I'm joined here with a familiar face to the African History Network, Brother Taaqiy Grant, director of the film HAPI, which deals with the role of economics in development of civilization. How you doing today, Brother HAPI? Brother
Doing well.
Taaqiy, I should say. How you doing, brother? How you doing
Doing
today,
well.
brother?
Doing well.
All
Doing
right.
well. How's everything?
Oh, busy, man. It's busy in the new year. And I'm wearing my HAPI shirt as well. Let's make sure everybody can see this. Wearing my HAPI shirt also. And Taaqiy is here to talk about the HAPI Day of Black Excellence. The HAPI Day of Black Excellence. We have information on our website about this. You've seen information on social media, and it's taking place Saturday, February 4th, 2023 in New York City. So to give us more information about this event, we have Brother Taaqiy. So brother, tell us about this HAPI Day of Black Excellence. What is this about, and what inspired this event?
Wow, that's a great question. Just give me one quick second. I'm just sharing the link
Oh
to
yeah,
all
go
our
ahead.
pages
Go ahead.
and make sure our audience has that. But
Okay, no problem.
I'm done right now. So
okay.
yeah, so the HAPI Day of Black Excellence is a day to showcase Black genius through art.
Black genius through art. Okay.
Black genius through art. And it came about just having a conversation with a fellow filmmaker, brother Amadeus Christ, about his film Out of Darkness, Heavy as the Crown.
Yeah.
Right. His new work he just put out, Out of Darkness, Heavy as the Crown, Volume 1. So we started talking about this piece. It's a great piece of work. And
I've got it here. We're a distributor of it. Yep.
And started talking about coming to New York. So I said, listen, you're gonna come to New York. Let's do a like a joint co-screening of the film, so to speak. Because we already have similar people in both films, Mfundushi, Professor Smalls. So I said, it just makes sense if we are screening both films or parts of them, and we have some of the same people there, have a talk back session. Mainly Professor Smalls and Mfundushi. Then we added Kaba. And as we started to work out some of the details, it really, really started to grow and expand. So added to the list, we have, we already said Professor Smalls, brother Mfundushi Jhthyms, Kaba Kamene, Rizza Islam, Dr. Susan Tata, Dr. Georgina Falou. We have African dance, drummers. We have our brother Jamal Milton, who's a conscious hip hop artist. We have some poets there, Lyrical Faith, sisters of dope poet, great poet. And we also have legendary brand Nubian. And what this is all different aspects of art that's coming together in a very seamless way that's creating this experience. It's not just we didn't want to over lecture people. You know, we didn't want to have it where something is not necessarily we want the message to come across correctly. And one person I actually did, I forgot to mention, my man, Detroit native, Dr. Ken Harris.
Yeah, Dr. Ken Harris.
Yes, Dr. Ken Harris, see right there, who was the moderator and host of our One Africa Power One Unity Conference that we had in Detroit last year. You know, which you was a part of.
I was there for that. Yep, I was one of the
panelists. One of the panelists for that. So it's an extraordinary collection of people, not just different people, but also different forms of consciousness. You know, one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that, you know, we have to keep the spirit of Pan-Africanism alive. And that's what I love about the collection of this group here. We have continental Africans, Africanism, all about the diaspora coming together collectively, working for this experience. So yeah, man, for people who want to get tickets, I advise everyone to get tickets now. Go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com and get your tickets. We have different elements of tickets in the sense of you can come if you're in the New York City area, or if you want to travel to New York. A lot of our people are coming from outside of town. So, you know, definitely go ahead and be a part of it. Come get your general admission tickets. If not, you want to just sit in the comfort of your own home, we also have the tickets available for live stream. So yeah, it's a powerful experience. And, you know, Mike, you know, Imhotep, one of the things that really drove this home was what we did in Detroit, the Power and Unity. And significant because there's so many different things going on right now where we're constantly being challenged to in terms of reclaim our legacy. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, and one of the biggest stories right now that's running around, that's circulating in the media right now, is this attack against Kevin Hart for him saying that the ancient Egyptians were black. You know, and that was similar
Right.
to what happened to us in February last year when we were going to Egypt with the returning to the source, when Africa returned to the source conference. And one of the things we
Right.
realized right away that we're not gonna get anything, we don't have some real true unity in our community. So this happy day of Black excellence is not just to showcase Black genius through art, but also to showcase Black unity.
Okay. So talk about you mentioned Kevin Hart, and also you have the situation with Kyrie Irving, and I haven't seen the documentary from Hebrews to Negroes or things like this, but we know that Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen and other African scholars have talked about the original Hebrews were African, but also the original people in what we call today Egypt, but it was Kemet or Tamari historically. We know those were Africans as well. Talk about what happened with Kevin Hart. Fill people in on what's going on there.
Okay, great question. So for those who are not aware, Kevin Hart was, I want to say recently, not too long ago, was on the popular show Shark Tanks, and he invested in a company, Black comic book company called Black Sands, and
Okay.
this this company showcase or illustrates or highlights great African historical figures, and it teaches children to be proud of their heritage and their race, particularly Black children. And he made a comment, something to the effect, I don't know the exact wording, that it's important for Black children to see themselves as kings and queens, because the ancient
Right.
Egyptians, were Black. When he said that, all hell broke loose. There's an actual, I'm serious. There's an actual change.org petition against Kevin Hart to stop him from coming to Egypt. He actually has a show scheduled to Egypt on February 21st.
Okay, so a comedy show.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if it's a comedy show, but he's supposed to be doing something in Egypt
Okay.
on February 21st. And these people,
Okay.
it's a group in Egypt called, loosely translated, Egypt's Awareness. And they have, they're big on social media, but these are the same people. It's ironic because when we did some research just going back, this is the same group that did the petition to stop us from having a conference in Egypt.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So,
okay, up this article right. I'm pulling up this article right now for my friends over at AtlantaBlackStar.com. Okay, and this is from December 23rd, 2022. Kevin Hart criticized for allegedly saying Egyptians were Black. Critics launch online movement to shut down his upcoming show in Cairo, Egypt. This is from December 23rd, 2022, written by Angelina Vasquez for AtlantaBlackStar.com, which is African American owned and operated. They have a lot of good content at AtlantaBlackStar.com. I know some of the people over there. Go ahead, Taaqiy, and finish what you were saying.
So I'm actually, as you showed that, I want to share the petition with you. If you give me just one quick second, so
Okay.
you can share that with your
Yeah, let's go ahead. While you pull that up, I'll just share a little bit of this article. It says Kevin Hart may have found himself in the crosshairs of cancel culture again. The comedy box office star is currently globetrotting on his reality check comedy tour. And on December 9th, 2022, he announced that he would be bringing the show to Cairo, Egypt. The performance is scheduled to take place at a Cairo indoor stadium on February 21st, 2023. It will mark the comedian's first time doing stand-up in the ancient city known as the home of the pyramids of Giza. Okay. So here we have a picture of Kevin Hart. And while Kevin Hart is finishing up the North American leg of the junket, he is already being slammed by fans in Africa for an alleged joke. According to the Middle East Eye, the entertainment mogul is accused of saying that ancient Egyptians were Black. He's accused of saying that ancient Egyptians were Black. As a result, many have called for his upcoming show in Cairo to be canceled and have expressed disdain for the actor through hashtags such as Kevin Hart is not welcome in Egypt. Now, debates about ancient Egyptians not having the Eurocentric roots have been an ongoing debate. One of our great scholar warriors, Dr. Shenkata Diop, a Senegalese scholar, refuted efforts to continue whitewashing Egypt's melanated history in the 1980s by pointing out that mummified remains proved their hair, features, the amount of melanin found in skin samples, and other factors all proved they were genetically Black or Africoid. Okay. Reactions to Kevin Hart's alleged comparison and Egypt's debated genealogy have been split. Go ahead, Taaqiy. I don't see what was blasphemous about what Kevin Hart said. So, but go ahead.
So, and by the way, I just checked your email. I just sent you something, and you might want to share this with your audience. So, let's be clear that they are literally trying to. No, I'm glad I had this sitting here. They're literally trying to do this to Egypt, and they just had a recent CT. This is a CT scan years ago of supposed to be a Tutankhamen, right? They just did one recently.
Go ahead. I'm guaranteed. Go ahead and show that again because I just
they let me move this over. Yeah, they did this recently. Another one recently of the Ramses II, where they're showing these great Africans as these essentially race neutral kind of people.
Right.
I don't even want to really call them really white, but essentially they race neutral type of people. But like you said, Shenkata Diop and many of us, the whole film HAPI itself really delved into the cultural confluence of East and West Africa, the exhibit that they have up in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, African Origins of Civilization, which is inspired by the work of Shenkata Diop, deals with the cultural confluence of East and West Africa, from the Dolong to the Dogon to the Nile, the Yoruba to the Nile, the Akan to the Nile, the Wolof to the Nile. You can find these cultural confluence through language, culture, ethnicity, all throughout Africa. And we're not trying to get into debate with them. We don't want to debate because they don't want to debate us. They don't want to try to have an intellectual discourse. That's not what they want. They want to try to terrorize. They want to try to scare people. If you bring up that that petition I just sent you, and I want to point out a very interesting part because this is their.
Okay, let me pull it up just a second. Go ahead.
This is their tactic, and I don't want to kind of spill the beans a little bit, but it's something really in there that really kind of highlights the purpose of these attacks. And for me, what brings this home so much is this is the same thing that happened to us last year this time. You know what I'm saying? We had about 200 people ready to go to Egypt, and we were planning to do our conference, One Africa Returning to the Source, which really spoke about the cultural confluence of African civilizations. We weren't coming there to start any trouble. We wasn't coming there. We were going to have a conference and our trip just amongst ourselves. Somehow or another, these people got wind of this, and they started a petition. The same group started petitioning. The same group that started petition against Kevin Hart started that petition against us. But it made me realize things.
Right.
And one of the things that came out of that was we had to really change how we do business. And one of the changes we were kind of focused on was just really understanding what true Black unity or Pan-African unity looks like. Here, scroll up.
Okay.
All the way.
I did.
No, I'm sorry. Go down. I'm sorry.
Go down. Okay.
Yeah, all the way to the bottom.
So cancel Kevin Hart. This is petition. Okay, all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
This right here.
No, keep going.
Kevin
going,
Hart.
All the way to the bottom.
Okay.
Right here. Stop. Go up a little bit.
Okay.
Go back. Go up a little.
Go up. Reason for signing?
No. Keep going.
Okay.
What's the last paragraph that we see? Keep going.
Oh, last paragraph. An appeal. Let me increase the size of this so people can see it here. Let's see. An appeal to the right here. An appeal to the Egyptian government officials. That's what you want. Okay. An appeal to the Egyptian government officials in their positions that if they will not prevent these disastrous claims against the Egyptian people and stop this show, at the very least, there must be an official statement from official authorities that denies their words on a permanent and continuous basis. Otherwise, we are heading for something worse. And
that's the part I wanted to highlight. They're heading for something worse.
Okay.
Essentially, what they're saying is that if Afrocentric people keep claiming that ancient Egyptian was Black, they're going to do something to hurt somebody.
Okay.
So
Wow. Wow. Now, Dr. Zahi Hawass, who is the leader of antiquities
no,
there in
not
Egypt
anymore.
and things like
He's like
not
he's
anymore.
3 people removed.
3 people removed.
Oh.
Okay. Well, Dr. Zahi Hawass, what is Dr. Zahi what is Dr. Zahi Hawass position on the ancient Egyptians? We're not talking about the majority of the people in Egypt today. We're talking about the ancient Kemites. What's his position on them being black?
So publicly, they may say one thing, but
Mm-hmm.
behind closed doors, it's something different. They may try to convince the world otherwise. See, Egypt is, how can I say this to you? Egypt is very commercialized, right?
Right.
And it's very
The tourism is
right,
huge
right,
business for Egypt.
right.
Yeah.
And it's very important for the Egyptians to perpetuate this myth of a non-black existence because it helps their
Mm-hmm.
tourist dollars. Because if the world found
Right.
out that the people who built the pyramids, they really believed that the pyramid builders and the alike were black, they would not visit.
Right.
And that's a fact. So for
Right.
Egypt, they try to perpetuate this ambiguous claim when it comes to race. Or what they really do, and Egyptologists have done this since the early 19th century, late 19th century, I should say. They have redefined what black is. And
Okay.
what I mean by that, they have taken what we would define as black, they don't define it as black. And
Okay.
and
So
there's
so talk about that.
there's an actual
Talk about
article,
that.
and give me 1 second.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. And while he searches for that article, here's some information on Dr. Dr. Shankanta Diop. This is from blackpast.org. I've shared this information before. He lived from 1923 to 1986. And he was a anthropologist. Okay, he was well off. He was from Senegal, but distinguished historian and Pan-Africanist political leader Shankanta Diop was born in Senegal on December 23rd, 1933, to a Muslim well-off family. Once he attended the Sorbonne as well in Paris, France. Diop became involved once at the Sorbonne. Diop became involved in the African students' anti-colonial movement, where young intellectuals worked for African independence. And then, so he helped organize the first Pan-African Student Congress in Paris in 1951, and committed to the richness of African history. Dr. Diop's 1951 PhD dissertation looked into ancient Egyptian history and the influence it had on European culture. At a time when European cultural superiority was the accepted notion, Dr. Diop proclaimed ancient civilizations were the inspiration and origin of European accomplishments. Okay, Dr. Diop proclaimed that African civilizations were the inspiration and origin of European accomplishments. The Sorbonne in Paris rejected his dissertation, yet his work nevertheless received worldwide attention. And then we go here in Senegal. Diop was appointed as research fellow at Dakar University. Let's see, let's skip down here. In response to the dissolution of these parties, Diop founded the Reassembled National Democratic in 1976. Over his career, he published a number of books, including 7 which were translated into English, because he spoke French also. His most famous works: The African Origin of Civilization, Myth or Reality, 1974, The Cultural Unity of Black Africa, 1978. Let's see here. Okay, go ahead, Taaqiy.
Yeah, I'm just kind of listening to some of the stuff that that you were discussing there a minute ago. We just reading about Shakanta Diop. So here's a classic example of what I was talking about, redefining race.
Okay.
Here's a book, The Complete Valley of the Kings, which basically speaks about every tomb, royal tomb or otherwise, that were located in the Valley of the Kings. His individual, his name is Mahapra, right?
Okay.
And as you
Right.
can see there, you look at them, it's really kind of unmistakably. You look at all the mummies, royal mummies or otherwise, in ancient Kemet before the invasion of the Europeans, the Greeks and the Romans, you're going to find brothers and sisters that look like this, right?
Right.
And one of the
Right.
claims that Egyptology has, I'm gonna get back to this book in a second, is that the reason why its skin is black sometimes is because of the resin that we use for the mummification process. Now, resin is the sticky substance that was used between the bandages, wasn't placed in the body, was used between the bandages to keep the linen, the linen wrap to keep the sahu or the mummy intact, to keep the bandages intact. And that was something that they claim turned the skin black, right? But again, this book here, now we have an excerpt from what this is actually, this person here, tomb was found before Tutankhamun, but there's really no mention of him in terms of.
It was found about 1922, if I remember correctly.
That was King, who they call King Tut, was found in 1922.
Right.
But this is Maharpa. So on a copy of the Book of Dead found in the tomb of Maharpa, is depicted with his face black instead of the normal red. In detailed examination of his mummy, this is an interesting part, which showed that he died about the 24 years of age, and also showed that he was Negroid, but not actually Negro. All right. And this,
okay, so
yeah.
Okay,
I know that
repeat that.
I know that was kind of fast. I'm gonna say it again.
Repeat that.
Just that last portion there. Maharpa is depicted with his face black instead of the normal red, and that's on this book of the Dead, coming forth by day and night. In detailed examination of his mummy, which showed that he died about 24 years of age, and also showed that he was Negroid, but not actually Negro. So the redefining of race is one of the methodologies in which they've used throughout the centuries to try to take, Kemet out of Africa and place Egypt in the Middle East. They play words.
So what's the difference?
And let me
what's the difference between Negro? What's the difference between Negro and Negroid?
There is no difference. So this is the latest census, right, that the U.S. just put out. Came out maybe, I think, was it last year, the year before last? And section 9 here, it has white, right? And it has all the locations where a white person would be. And I don't know if you can really see it here, but Egypt is actually listed as one of them. So
based upon the U.S. Census, people immigrating to the U.S. from North Africa are classified as white. Okay, Morocco, Libya, Egypt, Algeria, they're all classified as white, and it's been like that for years. Go ahead.
Right. So this what we call, I guess, redefining or reclassification is the methodology in which they've used for years. This is nothing new. So you asked me the question about Egyptologists. Egyptologists know the truth. You cannot be in the ground, look at the mummies, study the language, and not know its source. It's impossible. You could try to lie to save face, but the evidence is so overwhelming in ancient Kemet. It's not even funny. It's so overwhelming. And it's interestingly enough, because what we're going through now, they went through thousands of years ago, right? And because they went through what we're going through now, they were very intentional. The Africans that lived along the Nile, very intentional about how they recorded their history and how they recorded themselves. They wanted to make sure people knew who they were, because they saw the outsiders coming in trying to erase their history and trying to basically try to remove them out of history. So they was like, nah, we're not going to do this. We're not going to allow this to happen. And Chancellor Williams talked about this in great detail in Destruction of Black Civilization, about that artistic revolution that took place in ancient Kemet, where they were more intentional about showing their noses broad, high cheekbones, because they wanted to show who they were. And that was a fact. It's interesting also, when you really think about Egypt, you don't really have to go back thousands of years ago to see Black people in Egypt. You don't have to go back that far. Look at the third president, fourth now president removed, Anwar Sadat. Anwar Sadat was a Black man who got killed in 1980. If you look at, some of the images, and I can actually send you some of these of, Tutankhamun's excavation, the people who was working on these sites were dark-skinned people. It's not something, again, where we have to really search. We don't have to really go back, oh, I'm gonna go back 5,000, 4,000, 3,000 years ago. You go back maybe 50, 100 years ago, and you'll see it. You'll see the evidence of, and I'm gonna send you these two if you want to share with your people. You can see the evidence of, the African presence in ancient in Kemet, not even ancient, not even ancient, but these pictures
Right.
need tell
Right.
they tell a tale. What
Well, we know that in ancient time, the lower
check your email.
portion of today, we know in ancient time, the lower portion of what we call today Egypt, and the upper portion of Sudan, that was Ta-Nehisi or Nubia, and those were Black African people as well. Okay, there and we know that Nubia is the mother of ancient Kemet. We know the grandmother would be Abyssinia, or what the Greeks called Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is a Greek word. And I'll go to the email in just a second, but I wanted to reference this information here. This is an article from AtlantaBlackStar.com. Once again, 10 arguments that prove Egyptians were Black. This is from October of 2013 by I think that's Antonio Moore, because I talked to Antonio before. 10 arguments that prove ancient Egyptians were Black. And one of them, they talk about the melanin dosage test that Dr. Shenkata Diop used in 1974 to prove that the ancient Egyptians were Black African. Diop invented a method for determining the level of melanin in the skin of human beings. Melanin is the chemical response for skin pigmentation, and it is preserved for millions of years in the skins of fossil animals. Dr. Diop conducted the melanin dosage test on Egyptian mummies at the Museum of Man in Paris, and determined the levels found in the dermis or skin and epidermis of a small sample would classify most ancient Egyptians as unquestionably among the Black races. Okay. So go ahead and let me check my email.
No, I mean, again, they don't want to debate. They just come up with hyperbole, and they want to just kind of just talk. They don't want to have any type of intellectual discourse, because they know the reality is that this establishes the African primacy of the world. And when they look at that, that kind of orients things the way it should be. So to deny Egypt's Blackness is to keep the world upside down. You know what I mean? Because
exactly.
Once they kind of once they accept that, now it has to have a total rewrite of history, and they don't want to do that.
Absolutely. Yep. You absolutely have to totally rewrite history.
And
that could go ahead.
And this ties in directly to what's happening here with critical race theory. All these things are directly connected to Africans knowing who they are and really understanding history in its proper context. People make comments like Dr. Henry Louis Gates, when he spoke of the people from Ta-Nehisi, or the so-called Nubians, being the blacks, the Black pharaohs or whatever. It's implying that they were Black, and the ones a little further to the north were not. It's like saying the French and the Englishmen, the French are Europeans and the English is Asiatic. You know what I mean? And they're right there, but they don't want to.
Well,
they only play that game. They only play that game when it comes to Africa. They don't play that game anyplace else.
Right.
And
Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr., who one of my teachers, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, refers to as Henry Louis Skip the Truth Gates, because oftentimes he skips over the truth. His nickname, white people call him Skip, but Dr. Leonard Jeffries refers to him as Henry Louis Skip the Truth Gates, because he oftentimes skips over the truth. Now, Gates does some good research on people's family history and genealogy. He does some good research on civil rights movement, things like this. I've read a couple of his books, but Gates made the statement. He was on the Tom Joyner morning show back when Tom Joyner had his nationally syndicated radio show. And periodically he would come on and deal with new documentaries that were coming on PBS or talk about history. And Tom had recently, he was either going to Egypt or had recently come back from Egypt, something like that. And I know Tom had a shirt saying, "We built this," referring to the pyramids. And Gates basically made the statement that, well, the majority of African Americans in the transatlantic slave trade who came to the U.S. came from West Africa, and Egypt is in Northeast Africa. So he was basically saying Egypt, ancient Egypt, and the pyramids really have nothing to do with West Africans. What he left out is African people migrated and didn't stay put. And Africans migrate from the Nile Valley region of Africa to Central Africa to West Africa. And as one of the things that Dr. Diop has pointed out, the cultural unity among Africa, we know that the Dogon, who are in Mali, Burkina Faso, come from ancient Kemet. We know that the Yoruba in Nigeria come from ancient Kemet. So ancient African history is not Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr.'s background. Okay, but go ahead, brother.
You know, it's interesting because the formulation of Kemet itself came from migrations to the Nile. You know,
yeah.
And this constant movement of people didn't happen when ancient Kemet collapsed and it fell, but it occurred before that. And you know, so when we talk about cultural unity, Egypt was a shining example of that. When the Sahara Desert began to encroach, because North Africa once upon a time was a rainforest, and science proves this. When the Sahara Desert began to encroach, people began to migrate towards river valleys. And one of the most common river valleys they went to was to the Nile, or the HAPI, or we call the HAPI Itiru, the Nile.
HAPI, yes. HAPI, HAPI.
So when they migrated toward this river, they then formulated systems that were put in place that would sustain them for thousands of years. And one of those systems was government, and governing different peoples, different tribes, different groups with different ideologies. This is why you have the pantheon of what people call the deities and things like that, because it was different expressions of how people saw the creator. Now, these Africans were very masterful at it, at coming together with people who spoke possibly different languages, who possibly, you know, understood the creator very differently, but they were able to put it in this very harmonious system that became what we know today as ancient Kemet. You know, so this migration is what led to it. And then once ancient Kemet fell, we had the reverse migration. People began to migrate back south and west to their ancestral homelands. Now, what we're looking at here, you know, these are the people who were, you know, kind of left after thousands of years of amalgamation, as Chancellor Williams states in Destruction of Black Civilization. You can see these brothers here, particularly carrying the items that was taken from the tomb. You can see that, you know, we would define them as being Black. This is only 100 years ago. We're not even talking about thousands of years ago. There's another image I think I shared with you as well, just to kind of give us people an understanding or an idea of what, again, Egypt, not necessarily even Kemet, but what Egypt looked like just some time ago. And we should have did also was bring up a picture of Anwar Sadat as well, but some people can see that. People can understand, you know. Now this is Howard Carter right here.
Did you send me a picture of Sadat?
No, I didn't. I said I should have.
Okay.
But you know,
I'll pull one up.
Yeah. So we don't have to go back very far. You know? We don't have to go back very far. And these people are mixed. But the reality is that you will start to look back just, you know, throughout the, you know what I'm saying, go back several generations, you'll start to really, really see the real Black presence. But like most places that you know, European imperialism exists in that sense, they try to breed out the indigenous culture and indigenous people, you know, and it was it's been an attempt throughout years. Like the same thing happened in Latin America. They try to breed out, you know, the Black existence. North Africa, they try to breed it out. And this methodology is something that's been a strategy of theirs for centuries.
Right. Well, we know it happened in Cuba.
Absolutely.
We know in places like Argentina,
Absolutely.
it
Yeah,
happened
all
as
over.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
and Egypt's not exclusive of that. They've literally
Mhm.
tried to breed out the blackness of Egypt. They go in and that's in a deliberate strategy to breed it out.
Right, right. Let me pull up this mother. I'm trying to get to an image I can get to quickly. Okay, so this is from Al Jazeera. I was trying to get to one I get to quickly of Sadat. So let's pull this up here. Um, I've taught lectures. There was a concerted effort in some Latin countries, in some Central American countries, different things like that, to breed out the African presence through intermixing, or in some cases, bringing in more Europeans. So here's Sadat
Right.
on my right. He's the one not wearing the hat. I'm not familiar with them. And we know the movie on Sadat, Lou Gossett Jr. played Sadat. Okay, last time I checked,
Yeah.
Lou Gossett Jr. was African American. So this is an article for just for reference. People can read this article here from. This is from. Let's see. Let's go back. This is from Al Jazeera, and the name of this article is Profile Anwar Sadat. Profile Anwar Sadat. The former Egyptian president believed a peace deal with Israel was vital to end wars. Okay, go ahead, Taaqiy.
So just quickly, this was that image with him standing next to Hosni Mubarak. Hosni seated him, was a successor, who was actually the vice president, was a successor in
Hosni
terms of
Mubarak,
and he was a president for about 30 years in Egypt, up until about 2011, when they had what was called the Arab Spring across North Africa, and he was ousted. The next president was Morsi. Then after Morsi, they have the president Sisi now. But it's interesting about that image there. That was actually, I guess that picture was probably taken moments before Sadat was assassinated, because that was at the
it's
parade.
1981.
That was at the parade.
And Anwar Sadat at the military parade, October 6, 1981.
That was at the parade where he was actually killed. And you know, it's when you talk to honest Egyptians, go back for a second. I just want to just point something out about this picture.
Okay.
There's a term in Egypt that they have, is called pharaonic, and when they see someone like this, they say this person looks pharaonic, because they know this person is like the bloodline. They're connected somehow. They are part of the original people, even though there's still some mixing going on there, but you can still see that there's still mixing. Whereas Mubarak is Turkish. Mubarak is a part of that European influx, that Mamluk Turkish influx that came in, that was hell bent on breeding out the blackness in Kim, and those who didn't, I guess, breed with them. A lot of people fled, a lot of people left, a lot of people went south, they went west. People just really abandoned the land. They just left it because it was too, it was too much. But this is an example of old Egypt, new Egypt, kind of side by side right here. This is actually a perfect picture.
Right. Okay. And I want to go back to briefly here, and we'll continue this discussion. I want to go back to the HAPI Black Excellence that's taking place February 4th, 2023. So we're speaking, those just joining us, we're speaking with our brother Taaqiy Grant, who is the director of the film HAPI, which deals with the role of economics and development of civilization. He did this along with the co-director and co-producer Felicia Harden as well. And let people know about the HAPI Day of Black Excellence, the event coming up February 4th, 2023. Once again, please, Taaqiy.
Yes. So, before we get into that, I just want to talk about the film, people that were involved.
Okay.
HAPI, the role of economics and development of civilization, or we like to affectionately call it from crops to stocks. This was the
From crops to stocks. Okay.
There's the
Right.
evolution of economics and civilization. It actually, the film starts now, where we are now. It talks about our current socio-economic situation. Then it goes back through
Right.
time. It goes time and examines, excuse me, non-violent culture. Talks about the confluence between East and West Africa. Then it moves forward in time. It goes to the emergence of great West African civilizations and their economic foundation, which is the Trans-Saharan Trade Network. Then as we move forward from there, we talk about the foundation of Western civilization and their economic genesis, which is a trans-Atlantic slave network, or the triangle slave trade. Then as we delve into that and try to understand that further, the economic basis behind this, we then move into early America, the development of the United States. Then we come back full circle to where we are now. And the last half hour of the film deals with solution-based information for our people. And one of the most important things that we must underline, underscore about the film is Dr. J's pyramid analysis, the economics, politics, and culture. Because you could have all the money in the world, and we know there's a lot of Black folks with money. You can have all the politics in the world. You can do all this stuff, but if you don't have the cultural imperative to be able to speak to your economics and your politics in a certain way, we're gonna keep being in this vicious cycle that we're in right now. We need to understand the deep values that African culture provides us and gives us, so that we can spend our money properly. We can strategize the way that we need to. So the economics, politics, culture analysis that we have throughout the film is really the essential component. Now, when we talk about the Happy Day of Black Excellence, the Happy Day of Black Excellence really came about, and you look to the side, see the power and unity. It came about because of really the premise of this discussion, because what's going on right now with Kevin Hart, like I said, for me, it kind of hit home, because the same thing that happened, that's happening now, happened to us almost essentially a year ago. So this thing has come full circle, and we had to cancel the conference in Egypt. We canceled the trip, and we had to move the trip. Excuse me, the conference. We actually moved the trip from February to the spring, end of May, and the conference we brought to Detroit, right? And renamed the conference from One Africa Returning to the Source to One Africa Power and Unity, and that right there really for me was the genesis of Black Excellence, Power and Unity. Excuse me, Happy Day of Black Excellence. Because when we think about what happened last year and what's going on right now, we need to understand the importance of Black genius. We need to showcase Black love. We need to showcase, the Black expression in a very real way.
Right. Here's that. So Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Professor James Small are two of my teachers. People who watch the African History Network show and familiar with the African History Network knows this. I've interviewed them a number of times since 2010. But with Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Professor James Small teach, they talk about the pyramid principle. Okay, and the pyramid has three sides. Here we have the pyramid here in Giza, the pyramid of Khafre here in Giza, and the foundation of the pyramid is African history and culture. It's African history and culture that gives us our VIPs, our values, our interests, and our principles. And our values, our interests, and our principles in African history and culture influence our psychology. Our psychology influences our behavior. So that foundation influences our economic empowerment and how we engage in economics, where we spend our money, the type of businesses we have, etc. But it also engages our political empowerment and how we engage in politics and our understanding of politics. So we have to have a synthesis of all three of these, not just African history and culture. We have to have a synthesis of all three of these. Go ahead and explain how the pyramid principle from Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Professor James Small, explain how this is, how this impacts and how this is represented in the film HAPI, as well as connect that to the HAPI Day of Excellence.
So it's Professor Small at the end, and we talk about the film, and we have the perfect wrap up in the film. And one of the things we have to look at is what is our ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet. was one of the first. It was one of the world's first great mega economies. Right,
Right.
like it was like America, China. It was a mega economy of its time. That's what allowed it to do what it did in terms of it had the resources available to build pyramids, to build temples, tombs, things like this. These things required enormous resources to do.
Right.
Man resource, and there was no money at this time, but they had enough natural resource, and they had the ability to understand the importance of trade with neighboring countries to afford them items they did not have, like cedar from Babylon, from Byblos, Lebanon, that they were able to get because there's no trees along the Nile. You got some palm trees, but not trees that's sturdy enough to do what they need to do, like for shipfaring, shipbuilding. So they needed to trade
Right.
network with countries that had certain types of lumber to be able to kind of give them the ships that they were able to kind of sail to do further trading. Because as we know, they traded significantly with people up and down the coast of the Mediterranean, as well as up and down the coast of the Red Sea and up and down the Nile. And these ships that they needed to not only travel, but also to bring cargo and goods, they needed a certain type of raw material, certain types of wood to do that. And the wood that they got for these types of these type of endeavors, they found mostly in Lebanon. So, one of the things when we understand, looking at the doing an analysis of the HAPI River, understanding that trade thoroughfare and understanding the resources that the Nile afforded them, we need to look at what is our HAPI River of today, right? So
Okay. Right.
the wrap up in the film, Professor James Small talks about understanding what do we have here in terms of our resources, tax revenue, real estate, online marketing, virtual virtual things, cryptocurrency. All these different things are part of our resources today. We're not trying to go back and duplicate what they did necessarily 5,000-6,000 years ago, but understanding using that as a model, right? Using their pyramid analysis as a model to build our HAPI of today. And we have certain resources here that's available at our fingertips that we need to use. So again, we look at the cultural imperative, the deep values they had, the cultural deep values was kept the civilization alive for so long. That helped manage their politics. Their politics was it lasted for over 3,000 years, the longest enduring country or governing body this world has seen for 3,000 years. It
Right.
lasted. And that came from the deep values or the cultural imperative that they had, their politics and the economics that they had, which their politics managed, but it was also fueled by their deep values, allowed them to build the very spiritual imperatives that we see today. And the things that we see, by and large, the tombs, the temples, the pyramids, these are all things that they wanted to last forever. There was a saying in ancient Egypt that the things of this world were mundane. This is why you don't see palaces of long or deceased or pharaohs or kings that have transitioned. They were the richest people in the world, but you don't see their palaces. But what you will see is their temples and their tombs, because these are things that they were felt are eternal. So they wanted these things to last forever. So they use certain, going back to the resources, they use different types of resources to build these types of things. The hardest stones, the granite, the sandstone, the limestone. These are the things that they use to employ the building of things that they were eternal, things that were of the divine nature. So all this
Right.
comes from the top of that pyramid analysis, that culture, those deep values, and where were the economics going? Where were their politics being used? How were they going to take their politics to govern their economics? All that came from, who they was as people. Now, if we use that model today, we have the economic sense in some aspects. We know Black Americans, and this number keeps moving, but I'm going to say $1 trillion of spending money.
It's close to 1.6 now.
You know,
But go ahead.
we we
Yeah.
we have this money, but we constantly keep spending it in the very wrong ways. There's been a lot of discussion talking about this bill they're trying to pass in California for reparations, and there's a lot of discussions about what's going to happen if it happens, and when it does happen, how is money going to be spent? And no, not Kevin Hart. Dave Chappelle did this skit years ago about reparations, and Cadillac, Cools, like Nike, all
Right.
these things were like instantaneously, like the stock values went up tremendously because Black people turned around and put all the money back in it. And that would absolutely 100% happen, and we know that.
Oh yeah, I've said it before, and some people got mad at me. I said if we all got $1 million a day, white people will have most of it back by this time next week, if not all of it. And the only thing we would have done is stimulated their economy. And everybody watching this knows I'm telling the truth. Now that doesn't. When you look at the California Reparations Task Force, and I talked about this in my Kwanzaa Day presentation here in Detroit at King Solomon Church. The historic King Solomon Baptist Church, where Malcolm X delivered the ballot or the bullet April 4th, 1964. When you look at the 500-page report that they put out, they talked about how we need comprehensive reparations, not just cash payments. We need comprehensive reparations, and they lay out the laws and policies that over time have maldistributed wealth upon resources into the hands of Europeans and here in America, and how it has harmed African Americans. Okay, so we have to understand the type of repairing of the damage that needs to take place. You have to first understand the extent and the level of the damage that has taken place. And unfortunately, a lot of times when we talk about when a lot of people talk about reparations, and I dealt with this on one of the broadcasts that you all did, we talk about compensation for our ancestors working for 246 years for free, speaking for free, and that as the damage. And as I've stated numerous times before, and as I stated here in Detroit, you have to first analyze when you talk about repairing the damage. The root concept of reparations means to repair, to make people whole again from some type of harm that was inflicted upon them. Well, you first have to analyze who African people were and what African people had before we were put into an institution of slavery that stripped us largely of our history, culture, language, spiritual systems, names, nationalities, folklore, mores, etc. Okay, before you understand what type of repair has to be done. Okay, and recently, around December 3rd, 2022, this story came out. California Reparations Task Force preparing $223,000 per person recommendation. People can read more about that. But go ahead, Taaqiy.
So it's interesting. This is like a perfect tie-in to this discussion we're having right now on Happy Day of Black Excellence, because when you really think about what's needed here, what's needed here is self-awareness, right? Which then translates into self-respect, which all comes from our culture, which gives us our deep values, which then would help us if when this time comes, when the repairs are made monetarily, we could be more strategic with our finances. You understand what I'm saying? But it all starts with with people knowing who and what they are, right? So you look at something like the Happy Day of Black Excellence, showcasing the excellence in Black people or Black genius through art. It's a day about us. We mentioned many stars earlier, but the true star on stage, if you will, that day is just our Blackness. That is a true star, and it's really important. And this may begin to sound sort of cliche-ish, but it's the reality of the situation is that we only are who we are when we are aware of who we are. And if it wasn't so important, they wouldn't go so hard to try to keep us in darkness about who we are. You know, and that's the reality. Like Mfundushi says all the time, our culture is our medicine. We need to take back who we are as a people. And in this day, again, for those who are interested in participating and being part of it, you go to the AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, get your tickets. We have tickets for this in-house event. If you're in the tri-state New York City area, even a little further, I highly encourage you to be in the building. But if you just can't make it that day, you can it can be live streamed from the comfort of your own home. I see Sister Felicia there. Hey Felicia, she's putting the link in the chat.
Hey Felicia.
You know,
hey Felicia, how you doing?
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we definitely have to make sure
Felicia Harden,
we have to
go ahead.
You know, participate in this and be a part of this, because you know, when this time does come again for the reparations, and we just get your money, your paycheck, however you get your money, you want to have an understanding of who you are, so you could be a lot more strategic of how you do things, because we need both in our community to be successful. We need strategy and we need finances. And you talk again about
Absolutely.
the the pyramid analysis, economics, politics, and culture. That right there is the formula for our success if executed the right way.
Yeah,
Because if you look at that formula, the formula can show you successes and failures. You know,
right.
and it shows
Right.
you, you know, the economics of this country was built on the myth of white superiority, which allowed them
Hmm.
to use Africans as free labor to build, you know, their paradise on earth, so to speak. So
Right.
again, that came from their deep values and their culture, you know, how they felt and how they saw things. You know, we need to just analyze that, you can understand who and what they are. The same thing with Africans. We need to get more into that. And African Americans, you can see that our cultural imperative is a certain way. That's why we spend our money a certain way. You know, but we want to change the
Right.
paradigm. We have to participate in, you know, events like the Happy Day of Black Excellence. You have to read, you know, books from Sheikh Anta Diop and Chancellor Williams and other great African, you know, scholars and historians who's been setting the record straight for many years. You have to come listen to the brother Michael Imhotep, be a part of the African History Network. You know, you have to come, you know, listen to
Yes.
HAPI and come and be a part of all the things that we're doing, because this will help us get to the point that we need to be.
Absolutely. I want everybody to check out this article before the holiday break. I talked about this actually on our December 4th show of the African History Network. I think it was December 4th. Yeah, December 4th. I talked about this story here that came out. The National Review had this story picked up by Yahoo News, came out December 2nd, 2022. California Reparations Task Force floats $223,000 housing discrimination payment for Black residents. Now, it's important to understand history and law with this, with what California is doing. And I've been following it here. We've talked about it also on Roland Martin Unfiltered as well, and on The Culture with Raji Muhammad on the Black Star Media Network, which is Roland Martin's network. Number one, in California, as with in many other states, in California, it's illegal to have race-based policies, race-based programs, meaning you can't have a policy or law or program for only one race of people. Okay, people have to understand this with California. The federal government is the same way. It's illegal to have race-based programs in the federal government. That went into effect in 1964. Prior to 1964, you had this, but that's part of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Section 601, Title 6, Section 601, non-discrimination and federally assisted programs, which bars race-based programs because we were being discriminated against historically by race-based programs or how they were being distributed, etc., at the federal level. Now, with California, they're proposing to base their whatever benefits that they come up with for their reparations program, they're basing it based upon lineage to stand on legal ground to get around the fact that in California you can't have race-based programs, because whatever law gets passed by the California state legislature is going to be challenged in court by Republicans. Okay, this is what people have to understand. This is what a lot of the cut the check people don't understand. They don't talk about what happens when lawsuits are filed and it goes to the U.S. Supreme Court and you're dealing with a 6-3 conservative majority in the U.S. Supreme Court because Donald Trump got 3 Supreme Court justice confirmations, and he got 226 federal judges confirmed at the federal bench level, and he changed 1/4 of the federal judges prior to Joe Biden. Joe Biden has nominated a record number of federal judges in his first term, okay, in his first 2 years, I should say. But Trump has changed the landscape of the federal judgeship. So you have the federal courts, federal appeals court, and then it goes to the U.S. Supreme Court. So when you do laws like this, you have to make sure you're on strong legal footing because it will get challenged in court, and you don't want your legislation to be overturned in court. Okay, this is what's happening right now with the executive order that Joe Biden did on student loan forgiveness. Even though it was needed, and it overwhelmingly benefits African Americans, it's going before the U.S. Supreme Court because Republicans filed lawsuits along with uh, student loan services. They filed lawsuits to block it. Okay, so you got to understand all this through the end game. And I've been involved in writing public policy here in the city of Detroit. I was on a committee to write an executive order under Kwame Kilpatrick. And the first thing his corporate counsel told us, our first meeting that we had, it took us 13 months to get this done because it was much more complicated once we got in and took everything apart and realized that what we wanted to do, we couldn't really do it the way we wanted to. But at our first meeting, his corporate counsel told us we can't legally have a policy that is only for African Americans, but we can have policies that are for Detroit-based residents, meaning they live in the city of Detroit. So Detroit was at that time 85%, maybe 90% African American. So that's how we had to structure it so that if we get challenged in court, it won't get overturned. All right. So this is what a lot of people don't understand because they've never been involved in writing public policy. But check out this article here from I dealt with this on the African History Network show. This is from this one right here. This is from the California Reparations Task Force floats 223,000 housing discrimination payment for Black. This is from the National Review up by Yahoo News. And the other thing, and then I want you to weigh in on this, Taaqiy. The other thing that's important to understand is that California became a state in the Union in 1850. California does not have a real history of slavery. California has a real history of housing discrimination, sundown towns, racial discrimination against African Americans, things like this. There were about 1,500 African Americans identified who were in a quasi-slavery situation, but California doesn't have a real history of slavery as well. So the reparations that the state of California is going to do for African Americans in California is going to be based upon what the state of California did to African Americans as opposed to the federal government. Go ahead, Taaqiy.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see. This is going to become case law. This is obviously
it is set a precedent.
Set a precedence, yes. It's going to set the precedence for what's going to happen on state to state level, what's going to also happen on the federal level. And it's really interesting to see how this is going to play out. And I just hope that the message that we are conveying here tonight, or just in general, gets to the people so that they can understand who and what they are. So when these reparations when they do come, we're very strategic about it, and we use this not to economically empower whites even further, but we use to really economically empower ourselves. And one of the things when we talk about HAPI, one of the taglines of the film, along with the role of economics in the development of civilization, is economic empowerment through economic literacy. Right. So we're empowering ourselves economically, but we have to have financial literacy. We have to have financial wellness and understand the different aspects of financial literacy, of financial wellness, so that we can then use this money very effectively and very strategically. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen. My ears are to the ground on this one, and see how this is going to play out.
Right. And I think, but first of all, I encourage everybody to read the 500 pages from the California Reparations Task Force, because I've read excerpts of it. This article here from the Washington Post, I've been following pretty much every step of what's been going on here. There's an article from the Washington Post that deals, and I'm going to try to pull it. I think I already have it up. This one right here. I've got like 20 tabs up in Google Chrome and about 50 up in Firefox right now. So people just bear with me. Okay. I have two browsers open. That's how I usually do these broadcasts. But California calls for comprehensive reparations for Black Americans. This is from June 1st, 2022. The interim report of the California Reparations Task Force comes as task members remain split on what reparations should look like. Okay. And when you go through and read this article, they talk about the 500-page report that was released. a legislatively mandated task force argues that the present day wealth gap between Black and white Americans in California and the rest of the country is the direct, see where we go here, right here, is the direct result of slavery, Jim Crow laws, redlining, and other government policies that locked Black Americans into failing schools and over-policed communities.
Let me just add something real quick.
Talk about,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just add something to that. So yes, that's all correct. However, we also have to look at the fact with the miseducation, Carter G. Wilson said, was the education of the Negro plays out, and how, you know, just having, you say Black people like shiny things, having the desire to be with the Joneses, or, you know, to use our money in a different type of way, really also contributes to this as well. So those things definitely play a huge part on it. But we know also have to look at, you know, the Jordan phenomenon that we have. You know, we're just getting Jordans. You know, we're just getting, you know, Bentleys and all these other things. We have to look at these things.
Yes, conspicuous consumption.
Consumerism. Right. We have to look at we have to look at this over consumerism in our community and really understand what that's about. And it's a psychological thing that's missing there. It's all connected to kind of putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, you know, if you will. Black people have to learn how to love themselves, because that's what it really boils down to. We have to learn how to be more strategic, because they're going to argue, and they've argued this for years. Other groups have came here with less, and they've been more progressive, right? Other groups have been other groups out.
They didn't have all levels of government passing laws that were against them. Their history is entirely different.
Absolutely. But one of the main things with that is, I want to just make sure that it's understood and it's clear that, you know, we have those things against us, but we also have to use the resources we do have to be successful. And this goes back to the now, you know, goes back to the HAPI Valley. We can make excuses, we can do this, we can do that, but the reality is that we have to get better with things, you know, and our celebrities can't be our heroes. You know, we're the only community wherein athletes or entertainers are spokespersons. and usually those people are part of the biggest problem. They're part of the problem when it comes to leading us further down this rabbit hole of oversaturated consumerism we have in our community. Listen, it is what it is.
And then when you have somebody like a Kevin Hart who speaks truth, he gets attacked.
Absolutely.
By people, you know, he gets attacked. And you have, you know, I don't want to, I think everybody agree with me. We've had celebrities like a Muhammad Ali, but he's not the typical celebrity. And he got consciousness. He got a knowledge of history through the Nation of Islam, through Elijah Muhammad, through Malcolm X, etc., that caused him to change the way he think, felt, acted, and behaved, and caused him to take a stand against the United States government, which made him a legend outside of the ring and around the world, even though he was the youngest heavyweight champion at the time. Very quickly, because I know you got to run.
You know, also Taaqiy. I want to add something to that too about Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali for us is why we changed, you know, indirectly changed the conference from When Africa Returned to the Source to When Africa Power and Unity. Muhammad Ali was pressured. He was threatened that they were going to take his title. Eventually, they took his title from him, but he stood on his principle. He was willing to make the sacrifices for the greater good. What happened to us
when he refused to be drafted into the Vietnam in April 1967. Yes.
No Viet Cong ever called me nigga, the infamous saying, you know. When we had the incident that occurred last year this time, the reason why things impacted us the way we did, because there were individuals in and around us that could not or refused to stand on their square. So we knew very quickly at that point that we had to restructure things, and we had to look at this very differently, understand we are on a different landscape. We don't have necessarily the Muhammad Ali's around us, and there were some Muhammad Ali's around us. People like, Dr. J and Mfundushi, people actually really stood to other people that came to Detroit who were a part of it, were really a part of those people who stood on their square, because it's the same thing. These things keep kind of going on and on and over again. I remember I said something to Dr. J when this happened. I said, Doc, how many times we going to keep getting beat? We keep allowing them to beat us from the same plays in their playbook. You know, we
Right.
keep losing.
Well, that's because they work.
Right.
That's because the same plays work. That's why.
After a while, you figure
we haven't learned from the history.
We got to figure after a while, we get wise to this and like, you know what, we can't fall for this. We can't fall for the hokey doke no more. You know what I'm saying? But we keep falling for the hokey doke. We keep falling for this divide and conquer type of strategy. And this is where the power and unity again comes in. And I say, you know, the power and unity came in. It's like, oh, listen, we're only gonna get as strong, you know, as that weakest link, as it, you know, as they say. And you know, it's interesting because you got the HAPI shirt on. Our original, and I'm gonna close out with this. The original HAPI shirts we have was a single HAPI that you have on right there. We just recently had the new design, the double HAPI. And for those people who are not aware, this represents unity within itself. You know, this represents the HAPI of the North and the HAPI of the South. The lotus and papyrus plants being tied together.
Oh,
represent.
I have to get the new shirt,
right,
man. I got the retro shirt. I got the throwback jersey.
Right. Representing the true power and unity, representing the power of ancient Kemet, because most of the things in the now stood on this. You know what I mean? They weren't been able. There would have been no kings or Nasut Biti, as we call them, pharaohs, as they call them, if they didn't stand on a unity of both upper and lower Kemet. This represents a unification of, as we call it, the two lands. You know what I'm saying? So it's so important that we wanted to showcase this. We wanted to showcase these shirts are brand new. Anyone's interested can go to hapifilm.com. We actually have the new sweatshirts, hoodies, long sleeve tees, and the short sleeves, men and women. Definitely go to the website and see it. But this shirt represents more than just artwork. This represents, again, the power and unity. You have it here on the sleeve, you know, the power and unity. It really kind of spells it out, what we're all about. Our ancestors kind of left the formula for success for us in the artwork. Talking about expression of art in the Happy Day of Black Excellence. In the artwork, they showed the formula for our success. And the formula for our success is our unity.
Yep. And absolutely. And people can visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. We have the information for the HAPI Day of Excellence there. You scroll down, you just click on the link, you can get your ticket. And people, you mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, you mentioned people can sign up for the live stream if they cannot attend in person in New York City, Saturday, February 4th, 2023, 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Jamaica Performing Arts Center, Jamaica Avenue, Jamaica, New York. Just explain the live streaming for a minute if you can.
Well, for those people, again, like you said, who, and I'm gonna say the benefit or good fortune in being in the building, because it's going to be such a powerful experience. The live stream is going to be great. It's going to be awesome, but it's going to be divine. It's going to be the spirit of our ancestors is going to be with us, like the spirit was. And you can attest to this. You was there with us and at the Power and Unity Conference and at the Double T Detroit. It was something very special. It was a very, it was powerful. Very powerful. So this experience is going to be nothing less than that. It's going to be even more. And, you know, it's a Black History Month event. And, you know, if you can make it, please, by all means, come. It's something to be said when we're around each other. You know, we get power and energy from each other just being next to each other. You know what I mean? It's something interesting about Black people congregating and being in spaces like that. And this is also a networking event too. And that's one of the things that people on the live stream won't really necessarily have an opportunity to experience, is the networking aspect of an event like this. There's time actually built in the program so that people can actually network. You know, there's going to be a happy marketplace. There's going to be several vendors there. People have opportunity to take vendors. There's going to be the happy cast members, particularly those who live in the area. It's going to be about 13, 14 people from the film. So a lot of our elders who are not who are not mentioned.
We know Professor James Small. Yeah, go ahead.
Who are not mentioned there as being presenters or being people that's going to be showcased are going to be there, like Baba Heru and Dr. Linda Jeffries, Dr. Rosalind Jeffries. People, they're there. They're in attendance. You know what I'm saying? So,
and you're gonna have Professor James Small, Professor Kaba Kamene, Mfundushi Jhthyms. We've had all three of them on the show. You have Rizza Islam, Dr. Susan Tata, Dr. Georgina Falou, host and moderator, my friend Dr. Ken Harris. And I'm gonna see if I'm gonna see if I can get there. We'll see. We'll try to work things out on that end because I'm here in Detroit. But it's going to be fantastic. So people support this. Visit theafricanhistorynetwork.com. Go ahead with your last comments.
No, listen, I think you put the exclamation point on it, very well. And then definitely, listen, what they got to do. Go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com.
Yes.
Get the tickets. You can hit the link there, get the live stream tickets or the in-person general admission tickets. I don't think any more VIP tickets are left. Those went like they went like that. People just started, people jumped all over those. So that's it's very very pleasing for that. But also people who definitely want to support HAPI, they can follow us on all various platforms, YouTube, Twitter,
get that information,
Instagram, and Facebook. HAPI Film, HAPI FILM, 2 words. They can find us everywhere. Definitely all those who want to also support it. You got the HAPI merchandise. The brother Michael Imhotep has his shirt on. You got the new HAPI Samad Tawi double HAPI shirts that we have now, and the hoodies. Definitely go to HAPIFilm.com. And Felicia just said there's 1 VIP ticket left. So if anyone is interested,
all right, Felicia.
Yeah, anyone who's interested in getting being a VIP, definitely click the link right there and get that last VIP ticket. And the film and the newsletter. People definitely, we talked a lot about the HAPI Film in the broadcast. I know a lot of people have been kind of familiar with it because it's been out for about a couple of years now. But if you haven't seen it and you're new to the broadcast, definitely check out the HAPI Film. You will not be disappointed. It's in the digital format as well as DVD. And sign up for our newsletter to be in touch with most of the information. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, excellent. And I was supposed to be in the HAPI Film, but we can never arrange my interview. So
yeah, HAPI
people ask me, why weren't you in the film?
HAPI 2 is it's in its developmental stages, and we're definitely gonna have you in there this time, brother. We're gonna get it together.
Okay, excellent. Right. And Amadeus Christ, the director of Out of Darkness, he has a new movie coming out dealing with Black businesses. I'm in that film. We filmed my portion of that a few years ago. Yeah. So exactly.
You got to make sure you're in New York too, man, because like that brother's gonna be in the building with his film. It's gonna be a powerful experience, family.
Exactly. All right, Taaqiy, thanks for coming on, brother. Hotep to you. Happy New Year.
Likewise.
All right, peace. All right, everybody. That is Director Taaqiy Grant as well. We have Sister Felicia Harden, who we've had on the show before as well, who's the co-producer of the film HAPI, and she's co-organizer of the HAPI Day of Excellence. Be sure to visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, and listen to the African History Network show or watch the African History Network show on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll be on live. We'll be on live today also. So I have to have to end this broadcast to get ready for my Sunday night radio show. I've been doing Sundays. It'll be 7 years, April of 2023. Me doing the African History Network show on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF. So when you go to our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, and scroll down, you'll see the social media handles as well, and you'll see information about the African History Network show. I'm on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF here in Detroit. You can listen here in Detroit on radio. You can download the iHeart Radio app and now the TuneIn Radio app and search for 9:10 a.m. Superstation. You can watch on Facebook and YouTube at the African History Network on Facebook, and Michael Imhotep on YouTube. And then also we have audio podcasts. Click right here for listen to podcasts. We have audio podcasts. We're on 9 different audio, maybe 10 now, different audio podcast platforms. Wherever you get your podcast from, search for the African History Network show. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on TuneIn, in iTunes, FM Player, Stitcher, Castbox. So wherever you get your podcast from, search for the African History Network show. If you like this type of information, also you can financially support the African History Network. We definitely need your support because all this stuff doesn't just come together for free. It takes money to finance all of this. $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. We have the information right on the homepage of our website, and these are official Cash App accounts. Also, when you go to Cash App, $ the AHN show, SHOW, it'll say Michael. It'll probably show my picture there. These other ones and ones like them are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. So they've been stealing the different fake accounts out there that have been stealing money from us. I'm still trying to get those fake accounts shut down on Cash App. I've reached out to Cash App and they've created an investigation, and they're slower than Heinz ketchup. Okay. And on my DVD lectures, digital downloads, and my online classes, we have at our website as well. So the online classes that I teach on now on Saturdays, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Our next class will be Saturday, January 14th, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we're going to do more than 12 sessions this time. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. Our Tuesday class, next Tuesday class is Tuesday, January 10th, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. But we really deal with 100 years from 1800 through 1968 as well. Okay, so you can register for those classes, and even after the course is over with, you'll still have access to the entire class. So a year from now, 2 years from now, you can go back and watch the entire course. So we have that at theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. All right. Okay, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Happy New Year to everybody. And be sure to follow us on our social media platforms, turn on live notifications so you know when we go live, and join us for our live radio show that I do on Sunday nights as well. And a lot more people are seeing me on and recognizing me from Roland Martin Unfiltered. I'm a panelist on Fridays on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And I'm on Mondays on Faraji Muhammad's show, The Culture, which is on Roland's Black Star Media Network as well. So download the Black Star Media app and watch me on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You can watch on Facebook and YouTube, Roland Martin on Facebook and YouTube, or download the Black Star Media app, as well as Faraji Muhammad's show on Mondays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Culture and Roland's show is on Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace.